talking about prohibition. Talking about how the New York Times is calling for the repeal of prohibition, how Rand Paul is calling for the repeal of prohibition. We've seen the rule of law. We've seen nonsense like charging inanimate objects with crimes just so the government can seize that property without going through due process, without convicting anyone, without even charging a person with a crime. They can go in and seize the property by those types of things. We've seen it turn into a militarization of the police with SWAT teams. We've seen people put away for decades in terms of mandatory minimums, filling up the prisons to the extent that we have to allow violent criminals out on the streets because we can no longer hold them in prison. But we give 55-year prison terms to people because of a certain amount of possession of marijuana. And the bulk of the war on drugs is about marijuana. As they pointed out in this New York Times editorial, they said there were 658,000 arrests for marijuana possession in 2012, according to the FBI, but only 256,000 for cocaine. Okay, so it's more than double the number of arrests for marijuana as it was for cocaine, heroin, and other derivatives. And of course, it is racist. It's falling disproportionately on young black men, and I'm not using that in the light terms that Eric Holder and the Obama administration does, complaining that everything in the world is racist. No, when you have such a large percentage of people, you can actually put numbers to this. You can actually measure it. There's actually metrics that show that it is racist. We're going to be talking on the Nightly News tomorrow night. I'm going to be interviewing again Jim Gierach from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. He was a Cook County prosecutor, worked there for decades. He says 80% of the shootings in Chicago, and of course, gun violence is out of control in Chicago, one of the places where they have the most restrictive gun laws in the country. It's out of control there. He said 80% of the shootings are due to the war on drugs. What's going to happen when we have more people come across the border, when we have gangs coming across the border like MS-13, like the Zeta gangs, and they start competing with the existing gangs that are here, start a new drug war between them? Because we have this drug war that we started in Central and South America as well as America. We're going to be talking to him tomorrow night on the Nightly News. If you're not a Prison Planet TV subscriber, please consider getting one. You'll be able to see that interview. You'll be able to see everything as it happens every night, Monday through Friday. You can share that with 12 other people. And right now, we've got a special going. For $39.95, you get 5.3 months for free. You always get 2 months for free when you get an annual subscription, but right now you're getting an extra 3 months for free. So that's an annual subscription of just $39.95. You can see the Nightly News every night. You can share it with, like I said, 11 other people, and you can get access to all of Alex's documentaries there. Also, consider supporting us at InfoWarsStore.com with the fine line of apparel there that we have, the 1776 apparel, the shirts, the belt buckles, many other things. You know, I'm drinking Alex's coffee here that is 2 days old. When I came in, I didn't have time to, there wasn't any new coffee made. It was there from Friday. And I thought, no, I don't think I should drink that. But I thought, well, you know what? The coffee is so good. Let me give it a try. And actually, I gave it a try. And although it's cold, it tastes great. For iced coffee, it is delicious. So it tastes even great 2 days later. So that's the Wake Up America line of coffee. I would definitely recommend it. Tastes great, even the pot cold 2 days later. That's super stuff. It's even better when it's freshly brewed, but it's still really good. Better than most of the coffee that I've had that is freshly brewed, and even 2 days later. I want to go back to your calls, and I want to ask, and if you think that Obama should be impeached over this, how do we control the border? How do we, even more importantly, how do we control a president who has declared that he's going to do whatever he wishes? And as Eleanor Holmes Norton pointed out, you don't have a right to know what he's going to do because we've got this separation of powers government. Well, you know, Eleanor Holmes Norton is a non-voting member of Congress. She shouldn't even be there because the District of Columbia doesn't have a congressperson for a good reason. And so she's just there to sound off, but she's, as we play at the beginning of the program, saying that you don't have any right to know under our division of powers. I don't think there is any division of power. It looks to me like Congress has completely abdicated all of its power to either Obama or to the bureaucracies that they let write the laws. Let's go to your calls. Let's go to Matt in Canada. Matt.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Doing good. What's on your mind? What do you think we should do?
I think that, I think the biggest thing is to correct the laws that are prohibiting the production of hemp and cannabis in the US. I think that's the biggest way to increase the economy. You're going to massively increase the farming sector. Talk about the jobs that you're going to be creating. You've got a whole industry that is completely dormant right now because of laws. As soon as you open up cannabis and hemp production, you open up plastics and textile, let alone biodiesel that can produce, that can be a competitor for all the big oil companies out there. We have a crop that we are not using right now.
Yeah, you have. If you look at hemp, and that's not anything that's going to get anybody high. If you just look at hemp, you know that back in World War II, we had the Hemp for Victory campaigns, a famous video that you may have seen online. They can make clothing out of it. They can make rope out of it. They can make pharmaceuticals out of it. Hemp oil is very effective from what a lot of people have said. It's helped them a great deal with cancer. Of course, marijuana helps people who are on chemotherapy. It's the only way that most people can still eat while they're on chemotherapy. So it competes in a lot of different ways with a lot of industries out there. And I would say, Mark, in Canada, I would say that a lot of people had advanced the theory that maybe that was why it was criminalized the way that it was when it was because it was competing with a lot of big business.
Well, that's exactly right. The 1937 Marijuana Tax Act, you're talking about a law that provided the cotton industry, rope industry, all the different manufacturing industries that came up. It provided them a stepping stone for sure. But right now, we need to grow the economy. The only way to do that is by growing hemp trees, fast growing. Not to mention the plastics. Every product that you can think of that is used plastics, you can create bioplastics that are biodegradable. We're talking about no CO2 emissions. We're talking about carbon neutral. This is a left and a right marriage right here.
Yeah, that's right. And the good thing about it is that hemp and marijuana kind of grows like a weed, doesn't it? It's pretty easy to grow. But, you know, it's not just the economic benefits from it. It's also the liberty benefits from it. What if we actually went back to the rule of law? Because back in 1937, they did not have the legal authority to prohibit marijuana, to prohibit hemp or anything like that, because they needed to pass a constitutional amendment to prohibit alcohol. But when they got to 1937, they just said, we're just going to rule by fiat. That's what we see happening right now. Thank you, Mark, in Canada. That's what we see happening right now in so many different ways from the Obama administration. And I think that part of what we're seeing in the reluctance to go after Obama is that in areas where they really could win, in areas where they could come after him for things that appeal to a bipartisan audience, where he has destroyed our civil liberties, where they have done dragnet surveillance of people, where they've done drone assassinations, where they've done illegal undeclared wars, so many of those areas, the Republicans could make common cause with Democrats and could impeach him, could bring back the presidency into line with a real separation of powers, but they're reluctant on those issues because, quite frankly, they would like to break the law in those areas in the same way, just as they have signed on to breaking the law with marijuana prohibition and drug prohibition, the same way that the Republican House has supported the NDAA every year. Even though Obama did it and signed it, we also see that it was passed by a Republican majority in the House. Let's go to Mark in California. Mark?
Take them, David. Let none of them escape.
What's that?
David?
Yes.
I said take them, David. Let none of them escape.
Take them. Okay. Expand that a little bit.
Now, well, in other words, you're doing a good job. Keep on doing it.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Now, definitely, we should impeach Obama, no doubt about it. I know the John Birch Society did a fine job on Clinton. They had the petitions that we went around getting people to sign to send into Congress. But
everything we said came true. Everything we've done has been right.
We've been talking about impeachment, whether or not Obama should be impeached, whether or not he's actually begging for it, saying that he's going to essentially give amnesty by fiat to 5 million people, maybe more. Who knows? We don't have an accurate number. But essentially saying he's not going to wait for Congress to do anything. And, of course, if he can do that, he can also, by fiat, ban guns. He's talked about doing that. He's talked about doing many things by fiat, and of course he has done a lot by fiat. Can we get him impeached on some bipartisan issues? Will the Republicans do anything, or are they just trying to score some cheap political points? Now, of course, it's been said that Obama wants this, and I think Steve Stockman is right. Congressman Stockman from Texas, I think he does want impeachment. I think he sees that as a way to energize his base. The question is, will those who oppose his rule by fiat, will they be energized to vote for opposition, or will they see the opposition as essentially weak and effective if they don't do anything? I was talking just before the break with Mark in California. Mark, you were about to weigh in on what you thought we should do, whether Obama should be impeached, and maybe for what. What do you think?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to say hi to Captain Bruce in Florida, but I think it was Joe that mentioned that the congressman ought to write up. I'm not sure, I'm a carpet cleaner, but the congressman ought to write up, 6 or 7 different things, to impeach him for it, and then the ants, like this listener, can go and work on Congress. I think that's a good strategy. Another good one is I go to the city council meetings in San Jose, and I had a sign made up, a 3-foot by 2-foot sign, which is within the rules, that I bring down there maybe 2 or 3 times. It says John DeCamp, Alex Jones, the Franklin cover-up. We can bring up these issues that you and Alex talk about to our city councils still.
Yes.
And I've had 3 different T-shirts made up. I go to San Francisco Board of Supervisors, and it says John DeCamp, Alex Jones, Franklin cover-up, and then on the back, it's got a scripture, in due time Christ died for the ungodly. So there's something we can do.
Yes.
Still, we have the freedom, goes on the net and so on. People do watch that. But
well, you're right. I think there are many things we could do. I think if we fail to do anything, that sends the worst possible message. I think it is, whether or not we are going to win on something, we need to stand up for the things that matter. And when we fail to do that, when we fail to take a stand, that is the worst possible outcome. I think that's worse than trying to do the right thing and losing. You have to have a backbone. You have to stand up for what's right. And certainly, Mark, I think it's a target-rich environment in terms of what we could impeach him for. There are just so many things. Let's go to John in Wisconsin. John.
Yeah, how you doing today?
Good. What's on your mind? What do you think we ought to impeach Obama? And if so, what do you think we ought to impeach him for?
I think you have to pick one thing. I mean,
like I said, it's a target-rich environment, isn't it?
Well, there's 43 reasons all wrapped up in Obamacare that we can use.
Yeah.
I think this is the final straw that breaks the camel's back pretty much, because if you look back when Kennedy was in office, he wasn't going along with the program. He was doing, as a matter of fact, he warned us about people doing this.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he was assassinated.
Yeah.
And what happened right after that? Everything escalated. Everything just going up and up and up. Which Senior comes out every other time he opens his mouth, it's a new world order,
Well, I think one of the things the Republicans need to do in order to shore up their base is they need to show that they are willing to do something. I mean, we see over and over again how they've abdicated their legislative responsibility to the bureaucracies. We even see one of the leadership, Paul Ryan, going before the Federal Election Commission, asking them for permission to buy and sell, buy his book and give it away. That's something that all these politicians have done. They haven't asked for permission, nor should they, from the Federal Elections Commission. Hillary Clinton didn't ask for it, so he went to them, begged for permission. He essentially turned what is a right, that is political free speech, he turned that into a privilege. And one of the chair of the Federal Elections Commission, who is a Republican, came out and said, this is a very dangerous precedent we've set. But he was one of the ones who voted for it. They voted 6-0 to put this through, and then he comes out and says, we've set a very dangerous precedent. Yes, they have. They've changed a fundamental right of free political speech into a privilege that they can then micromanage, and they did it in his case. They said, well, you can do this, but you can't do that. You can't talk, you can't have more than 2 sentences about it on your website. That's the passivity. That's the spinelessness of the GOP leadership that we have right now. And I don't expect them to take any action, quite frankly, but they have to do something. We have to get somebody in there who's going to do something, but it apparently isn't going to be this current crop of the GOP. Anything else you wanted to add, John?
Well, if we succeed in in impeaching the president, and whoever's in charge then, or wait till the next president comes along, recall everybody in the Senate and House.
Yeah. Well, as somebody else pointed out, if you get rid of Obama, you're just going to get Biden. You're going to get Biden, and he's just as bad. But it sends the message that we could actually do something about it, that we had the will to do something about it, even if we didn't get the guy impeached. The fact that somebody would stand up to him, I think, would be the beginning of a movement. That person or group of people who would have the backbone to do that, they could start coalescing a coalition around them to actually do something. I think that's what we need to see. Let's go to, thank you, John. Let's go to Captain Bruce in Florida. Captain Bruce, go ahead.
David, kudos. I think Alex has finally found his replacement.
Oh, no.
By the way, the Pro Pure water filter works, and I also use the X2 iodine. I feel much better. So that is not, I'm not being paid to say that. That's the truth.
That's great. We got that back in stock, and we got a special on it, as I mentioned earlier. But thank you for letting us know. Go ahead. What do you want to say about impeachment?
I do think we should impeach Obama. And I think Biden is probably Obama's insurance policy. That's the only reason he has been taken out already.
That's right.
But we need to get rid of all of them. We need to get rid of Bernie Sanders and just go on down the line, Chucky Schumer, Hillary, all of them. God forbid we get Hillary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very, very concerning. Actually, I heard a quote from her that was on an interview with on NPR, and basically she was feeding this agenda out there that it's just simply children who are coming across, and all of the immigrants who come across are just fall into one of two categories. They're either migrants who are coming here because they want to be reunited with their family, and it's like, wait a minute, if their family is here, then they're U.S. citizens, or they're coming across and joining illegal immigrants who are already here. Or she says the other alternative is they're fleeing violence. Well, of course, there are other alternatives to that as well. It could be that they're coming here to make themselves dependent on the American people. It could also be that they're drug gangs who are coming across, just as we've shown in these early reports from Joe Biggs down at the border. They are cutting through the iron fences down there with acetylene torches at a regular rate. That's what is pushing these people in, is the drug war, I believe, that's going on there. And unless we stop that, we're not going to see it stop, no matter how much force, no matter how many fences we put down there. What do you think?
Well, I think teaching the children is important. I'm not scared of the children come across. We're going to be able to reform the Union after the United States is balkanized. I live in one of the most conservative areas of the country here next to Eglin Air Force Base. The military is aware, and anybody that is aware of what's going on now realizes this is going to be a long, bloody struggle. And I really want to salute all the callers and all the listeners to this show, because like a roofer uses a rolling magnet to pick up his roofing nails, the NSA is gathering information on all of us, and thanks to Edward Snowden. I am a patriot. I love the Constitution. I love the info war. I've never been more energized and excited, and thank you so much for being there, sir.
Well, thank you, Captain Bruce. And we have to not be intimidated by the fact that the NSA is collecting information on all of us. We have to be energized and angry about that. You're not going to escape them by merely trying to avoid the reality of what's going on. And the most dangerous thing that could come out of all this, out of the Snowden leaks and everything else, is for people to get the wrong message, to say, well, they're watching me. I better shut up. I better not make any waves. I better do exactly what they want. That is the wrong message. We have people like William Binney that I've interviewed on this radio show, the highest ranking NSA whistleblower. He was head of technical operations globally. He worked for them for decades, and he says, we have now a totalitarian state. He said, we already have a police state. He said, for decades, he watched what was going on in East Germany and Russia, and that's exactly what is happening here. We cannot allow that to happen. We need to speak out, and we need to not be afraid to challenge Obama when he breaks the law, or even the Republicans when they break the law.
City of Austin tap water versus filtered City of Austin tap water. I can taste dirt in it.
God knows what's in this.
This has an aftertaste.
Tastes like Austin water? Yeah, it does.
These people just sampled City of Austin tap water straight from the faucet. Next, we had them try a sample of tap water filtered through the ProPure G2.0 filtration system.
High quality H2O.
That one is better.
Tastes like nothing.
Yep, I know what good water tastes like. It's good water.
Most tap water contains added substances like fluoride, chlorine, Monsanto's deadly pesticide, glyphosate, and many others. Studies prove that these substances are linked to an assortment of major health issues, including tooth decay, lowered IQ, and even cancer.
It tastes like you're drinking out of the lake when you're drinking tap water.
Yeah, it has that processed flavor to it.
The ProPure G2.0 filtration system removes these deadly substances and many more, leaving only fresh-tasting, deliciously clean water.
Okay, this is very tasty.
It's good water.
Refreshing.
It's good.
Go to InfoWarsStore.com today. Use promo code WATER and save 10% off your ProPure purchase. Again, that's InfoWarsStore.com or call 1-888-253-3139.